Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Hope you are all well. In this video we are going to run through a quick demo of the WEP 948 Mark II soldering station and desoldering. So I thought I would create a quick video showing a quick demo of the WEP 948 Mark II soldering station. Now, as I said in the unboxing video, I haven't seen many reviews for these on Amazon, which is where I purchased this one from. But so far it seems to be an okay soldering station. Now there's a couple of limitations which I'll run through a little bit later on, but let me just run through a quick demo of some of the functions. So kicking off, first of all, once you've got your power lead in the back, there's obviously a power switch, master power switch to the rear, so you turn that on, and then you've got an option of either using the heat gun or soldering iron. There's a power switch to the fronts for each there. Now I have mounted the bracket for the heat gun to the right hand side. You can also mount it to the left hand side, but just because of the way I've got my my desk set up here, it's easier for me to have it on the right hand side, but so you can have it on the left. Now power for the heat gun is just this switch here, and there's some controls which I'll run through now. So simply turn on the heat gun with the red switch at the front. Then the fan obviously kicks in, and the fan is actually in the handle of the heat gun. And then you can control the actual heat and the power of the fan through this large silver knob here, and obviously the display shows the temperature of the fan. So by turning this counterclockwise, the fan in the actual heat gun itself slows down, so you get a slower airflow, which is shown here on the left hand side. And obviously if you turn it clockwise to the right, it obviously gets a lot more noisier, and obviously the flow coming out of the heat gun is a lot higher as well. Now there's actually two main settings. There's either manual or automatic. Automatic lets you use these memory functions here. Now there's a separate memory bank for the hot air gun, as well as a separate memory bank for the soldering iron. So if I switch to auto for the moment, you'll see by pushing the memory button you go through 3 different channels, and they're all preset, and you can actually change these yourselves as well. So pushing memory again, it goes to channel 2, which is currently set at 450 degrees. Channel 3 is currently set at 469, and it keeps looping round. Now you can use those without actually pushing the auto manual button. It's completely up to you how you do that. Essentially they're just memory functions of temperature and fan speed. Now what I tend to do is just leave it on manual, and that way I can actually adjust the speed of the fan, the airflow myself when I'm working, which suits me better. Now to actually change the temperature of the actual heat gun, you use these plus and minus buttons, and as I say, it goes all the way up to 480 degrees centigrade. Now one thing to note, once that stops flashing, it will set that temperature and the heat will go up to 480. It does take a while for this heat gun to get to that temperature. As you can see, I can put my hand there without getting burnt because it's still increasing in temperature, so it does take a while. And then obviously we can increase the fan speed. Now one thing which took me a while to work out is this is heating mode at the minute. Now if you have finished doing your rework and you want the air to cool down, you simply push this button and the temperature of the air drops, and it will keep dropping to pretty much 0. So it gets cooler and cooler and cooler, and that's a nice thing to do. Obviously if you're replacing the heat gun, you've stopped working for the time being, but you don't want to power it off yet, you can just push that button and it will drop the temperature of the heat gun. So that's essentially the heat gun functions, the air gun functions. Quite good. As I say, it takes a while to get up to temperature, which I've noticed, which can be a little bit frustrating, but it gets there eventually. Now once you're finished, you just simply switch off the red switch at the front. The heat gun carries on running. Now it's done on purpose because obviously there's an element inside the actual heat gun, the wand itself, and that needs to just cool down gradually. And then once it's cooled down, it will actually stop making the noise. Now, to the right hand side we have the connector for the soldering iron, and also this part here, which is the vacuum pump for the desoldering gun, which also comes with this soldering station. Now we'll go through that in a moment, but first of all, soldering iron, pretty standard. Flip the switch and then you've got your temperature of your soldering, so you can either increase it or decrease it. Again, it's got the same memory functions as the hot air gun. Keep pushing the middle button, it will set to different temperatures, and again you can set these temperatures to what you like, but I find it just quite simply just to run the temperature up at 480. Now there's a reason for that. At the start of the video I mentioned a couple of issues. This soldering iron, it's good, but it is entry level, I would say. Now to me, obviously I use different tips, and you get those with the kit as well. I have it set to 480, and to be quite honest about it, I don't know if this soldering iron ever gets to the 480 temperature, because it does take a while, you know, to actually doing some work on on the PCBs. So I would probably say it's probably close to 400. So I don't know if that temperature displayed there is actually a true reflection of the soldering iron. Now that could be the tip I'm using. Obviously the solder that whether I'm doing the soldering work on the PCB, it's a higher temperature solder, so there's that. But I would just bear that in mind as well, that the soldering iron, the hot air gun's great, but the soldering iron, depending on what tip you use, you might have to reconfigure the soldering iron with different tips to get to the best configuration for you. Now obviously we can just switch off the soldering iron and the soldering iron will cool down. Now one really good thing about this soldering station is the desoldering gun. Now first of all, I was a little unsure about it, but actually after using it I think it's great. Now the downside to the setup of the whole soldering station is you can't have the desoldering gun and the soldering iron connected at the same time. It actually uses the same power socket on the front here. So what you have to do to use the desoldering gun is actually unplug your soldering iron, move that away, and then connect on the desoldering gun. Like so. And then this connector here, which is the vacuum pipe, connects onto the front like so. Just slides on. Now that is then connected and ready to use, but it's a bit of a shame there wasn't actually 3 power sockets on the front of it to power all 3 at the same time. However, what I have noticed is this desoldering gun is actually quite good. Now as you can hear, when you pull the trigger, there's an airflow which runs and it sucks through the heating element and the back of the soldering gun here, and this is where your solder collects once it's been desoldered from the PCB, and this front element here warms up. It takes a while to warm up, but warms up, so it's a real quick and easy way of desoldering components from PCBs. Now once this warms up, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration. To actually remove the solder which is collected, you just pop off this cap at the top. Do that by pushing the button and pulling this out. So I won't do that now because it's heating up. Now what I'm going to try and do is a quick demonstration, if I can do this on camera. So here we have just a PCB which is actually from a Xbox controller. And if I wanted to desolder this thumbstick, it's quite easy to actually do. Now as I say, you pull the trigger to suck the solder away from the PCB, and this tip here warms up the solder for you. So if we take, for example, one of these legs, go for this one, you actually touch the tip of the desoldering gun onto the leg itself, it will warm up. Let's go for this one, it's smaller and easier. Pull the trigger, and then as you can see, it desolders the actual solder and sucks it away. Let's do the next one. Give it a few seconds to warm up, pull the trigger. Same again, next one. Give it a few seconds to warm up the solder. Pull the trigger. You can see now those 3 legs are now desoldered. If you can see that on the camera, which is great. Now, that is a great tool. I do really recommend that desoldering gun. I think it's great, especially, you know, you put in the trigger and it saves you having to use a separate solder sucker. So really, really good. Let's just switch that off. Place the desoldering gun on my heat mat. So all in all, quite a good unit. As I say, it's nice and compact. Controls are nice and easy. 2 negatives that I found so far is one, the main one, you have to unplug, as I say, the soldering iron or the desoldering gun to use the other device, which is frustrating, but you know, it's okay, you can live with that. And then secondly, the soldering iron that comes with it, again, it could be with the way I'm using the tips, but the soldering iron that comes with it itself does take its time to warm up, you know, quite a lot of time to warm up. And then when it does warm up, I'm not convinced that it's, you know, 480 degrees like it says on the display. And the reason I say that is obviously I've got other soldering irons, and when they're registering 480 on their display, they seem to remove the solder or melt the solder without any problems at all. But this one just takes a little bit longer. So not deal breakers, I'd say, and all in all, a very good soldering station. And these are available on Amazon, around 200 UK pounds, so we'll say about $250 roughly. So I'll add a link in the description below to this soldering station as well, so you can have a look at the specs on Amazon. So anyhow,